Hey folks, welcome back to the XNA Roundup Show. I'm your host, Nick the Dude. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Here at XNA Roundup headquarters, we find the best games on the Xbox Live community games section and give you the rundown on what's worth playing each and every week. Support this show by subscribing via iTunes or YouTube. You can also link or embed our videos on your blog, Twitter, or Facebook page. We've got another great show for you this week, highlighting 2 new community games. First up, we check out Clover, the classic style adventure game with some political leanings. Then we check out the ultra-linear arcade challenge, Streamline. Let's head right into the reviews. We'll see you on the other side. Clover is one of the few adventure games to hit the community games section so far. For the uninitiated, adventure games are described as a video game where you take the role of a character in a kind of interactive story, with an emphasis on exploration and puzzle solving as opposed to combat and physical challenges. Clover does offer some platforming elements, but the main engine of the game is definitely puzzle solving. The majority of the puzzles involve figuring out what item to bring to what character or place based on subtle clues presented to you, usually through dialogue with other characters. The basic premise of the story that Clover presents is a slightly disguised allegory of the aftermath of September 11th, ostensibly set in the Middle Ages. Clover's story tells of a group of savages who are alleged to have destroyed a more advanced culture's warship, and now this advanced culture is preparing to go to war with the savages. Either fortunately or not, the story that plays out has very little effect on what you are doing insofar as puzzle solving, and simply presents a reason and backdrop for you to be doing all this running about. That being said, the story does unfold at a nice pace. That is, if you don't get stuck trying to figure out what to do next. I got stuck a few times and had to employ the help of a friend who had beaten the game to get me through. I was also able to find some help on the game's forums located on the Xbox site. So if you do get stuck, that's somewhere where you might be able to get some help. More than a few times I found myself running from one end of the game to the other trying to find a use for an item. I hear a lot of people comparing this game to Braid because of its somber mood and the game's overall narrative, but aside from a few similar aha moments when you figure out what to do with a particular item, the 2 games have very few similarities. I'm still undecided as to whether or not the South Park-esque art style worked for the game. Initially I was a little put off by it, but now I think it added some needed levity to Clover, which was contrasted well against the story's admittedly gloomy tone. I definitely enjoyed Clover as kind of a throwback to games like Maniac Mansion and Sierra's Police Quest, but I felt there were a few puzzles that the game hadn't equipped me well enough to solve, and had I not chosen to review it, I may have stopped playing. Clover offers gamers a nice change of pace and also adds some variety to the community games catalog. Streamline puts a really interesting twist on the racing genre. The twist is that it strips away all the peripheral details, like what kind of car, manual or automatic, physics engines, all that boring stuff gone. What's left is a game you could probably port to an Atari 2700. Okay, well, minus the HD graphics. That's not to say that the game has stripped away any of the fun. Basically, you're simply controlling an always moving line, doing your best to avoid well-placed obstacles, and hopefully finishing ahead of the AI-controlled line. You control your heading with the analog stick, and can slow down or speed up your line's movement by using the A and B buttons alternatively. Although to be clear, you can never stop moving entirely. Your line has an energy bar that is depleted somewhat every time you hit an obstacle or use your speed burst. You can replenish your energy by driving over the energy rectangles, but one poorly executed maneuver and you can easily deplete your entire energy stash. I'm hoping this is the first in a franchise because while the game rocks, there are some notable absences. The first and most obvious omission is no multiplayer whatsoever. I would like to see at least a 2-player mode, if not a 4-player, and or some kind of online action. There's also a very limited number of boards, only around 6 or 7, which actually wouldn't be so bad if there was a multiplayer component. The last must-have piece is adjustable AI difficulty. It's too easy to beat the current AI, and more competition would give Streamline way more replay value. Missing pieces aside, Streamline is still a great value at 200 points. Alright folks, that is our show for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can get show updates at twitter.com/XNA Roundup, and you can email questions, comments, or suggestions to xnaroundup@gmail.com. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.